Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, April 13th meeting of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust and welcome you all to our meeting today. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of our previous meeting, the meeting of March 9th. And those minutes have been distributed to the trustees in advance. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes that were distributed?
I move their approval.
Okay, we have a motion made and second to approve the minutes. All those in favor, please. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda, item 3, is to ratify the Oklahoma City Development Economic Trust claims. And we have a list of those claims in your agenda. Are there any questions on the claims that were listed there? They all relate to the TIF operations. None of them are gold bond expenses. Are there any questions about those TIF expenses?
Move approval.
Okay, the chair has a motion made and seconded to approve or ratify these expenses. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is an item for individual consideration relating to PAYCOM. Would staff like to say any comments about this?
This is a joint agreement between the Economic Development Trust and the Water Utilities Trust to carry out the infrastructure improvements that I think we already talked about with the trust when we approved the incentive agreement for PAYCOM. And this allows the Water Trust to retain the engineers and construction contractors to build the improvements. And it allocates about $1.7 million in gold bond proceeds to make those infrastructure improvements.
Are there any comments or questions about the item? Yes.
Kathy, the total amount of gold money that will be spent on this will be, though, capped at $1.968 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so if the construction cost for these improvements goes over, the resolution says that we will cooperate with the Water Trust to fund any additional required design, but we're only going to cooperate up to the maximum of $1.968.
Right. Yes. Our portion was set in the earlier agreements with PAYCOM based upon the jobs they're going to create at the salary levels and those kinds of things. So.
I think it's interesting to point out that these improvements that the Water Trust and sewage people are putting in will benefit that entire area out there, and that is a rapidly developing part of Oklahoma City along the Turnpike and Memorial out there. So there'll be double advantages from these projects. Not only will PAYCOM have the facilities they need, but we'll be prepared to serve additional growth out there for the system. Are there any additional questions of staff before we vote? The chair would approve a motion.
So moved.
Second? I can do that, right?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any additional questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. The next item is the acceptance of a warranty deed from the Rescue Mission, LLC. Kathy, would you like to say about this?
This is, and Wiley may have a few things to add, but this is the warranty deed for a piece of property that we actually purchased in October of 2009. Closing was in November, so this is just acceptance of the warranty deed to complete that transaction.
Are there any questions or additional questions or comments? Chair would entertain a motion to accept the warranty deed. Second? All those in favor, please aye. Aye. Okay. We have accepted the warranty deed. Item 5 on the agenda is the general manager reports. Kathy, do you have any specific things you'd like to say? I understand we're going to have some reports.
We are going to have a couple of reports from some staff, but I think the general manager's report is basically the same as it was last month. We are having quite a bit of activity in TIF number 8, and Laura's going to talk a little bit about the schedule and some of the upcoming dates that are occurring with that project, just so you kind of know where we are. But most of our activity right now is related to TIF number 8 and the construction of the streetscapes and the Myriad Gardens. So we're rolling right along, and the Myriad Gardens will close after the Arts Festival, and we'll begin working on that project. So that's all I have.
Just a quick question on, with the festival starting, is it Next week or week after?
Week from today.
How's traffic going to navigate from the standpoint of the work being done on Pilmero and the like, or is there a plan in place to try to, it's not directly on point for economic development, but I thought we might get questions since there's so much
I've
work.
already asked that question, so maybe Laura can answer it.
It's all very positive progress, but at the same time I was hoping we could
That's a good
release some
question, Dave. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, we're not going to answer that.
Laura, can you help us?
Yes, I can. My name's Laura Story. I'm with Public Works. Actually, Project 180 is here. We are moving now. Sheridan has been opened up 2 ways in order to allow traffic to go back and forth along that, and all construction has been eliminated from that area until the Arts Festival closes. So now it is constrained, but it is travel in 2 directions along Sheridan, down Hudson to the south, as you go down south from downtown, and then you can exit either direction. So it is very, very tight, but we've got it opened up, and we're looking at how to open it up further west in the Film Exchange. I can't remember what TIF that is, 2, maybe? TIF 2. Anyway, west of the downtown area, we're trying to open that back up to give us some more room to maneuver with the pending visitors and everything. So, yeah, we're here. Do you want me to go through?
Yeah, just real quick. Today we have a couple of reports. We'll let Laura go ahead and go first with her update on Project 180. So go ahead, Laura.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't have an agenda in front of me. I want to bring you up to speed. We have had several pre-bids, and every time we sit in a pre-bid, which is right before you open bids, you answer contractors' questions. I can't believe that it has happened so quickly. I mean, we are still designing, but we're also getting out to construction with the parts that we can, and we've been talking about it, and it's very, very exciting. I think we're staying on task. We're anxious to hear how the bids come in and make sure that they are appropriate. I think they're going to be low, but we're not taking any bets. We're just watching for it. Our first project is going to be the Myriad Gardens demo, and we're going to be buttoning up the outside with concrete medium barrier fences and panels so we can put some artwork on there. And then the artwork will be sketched in and then filled in as the construction proceeds through the Arts Festival, through the Myriad Gardens and what happens in there. So it'll be a little stencil, then we'll add some color, and then we'll add some depth, and people can watch that construction as it happens inside, plus some little peepholes.
It's basically a rendering of the gardens, but
Yes.
it'll start as a line drawing and then get filled in as the construction takes place. So
Thank you.
And Laura, remind us what the estimated date of completion is.
The estimated date of completion for the entire project is right before next year's Arts Festival. The demo package, which is opening bids downstairs, I'm very anxious to hear what happens right now, that is to be finished July 12th so that the people who are going to come in and plant the garden and build the architectural elements can start on July 13th. So this is just the demo, the demolition, removing and protecting trees in place, kind of gutting it and getting it ready for the next project.
Up until now.
Oh, we saved $1.2 million, so that's good. We're doing good.
The winning bid was $1.2 million?
We saved $1.2 million.
Saved.
So out of an estimate for 2.7, we have 1.5 is our apparent low bidder. So it has to be vetted and make sure that everything's okay. But
That's good news.
it is. It's exciting. This is wonderful. Oh, okay. We plan to finish that. Also, I'd like to add that because this project is the first to kick it off, then the liquidated damages are based on future projects that are coming behind it, and we have set a $10,000 a day liquidated damages. So these guys need to stay on task. We are trying to get their attention that we really mean business, and our contract's very strict. Our second project that we will be opening bids on is really not a project. As you know, being a government agency, we do not want to sole source anything. And our dilemma with picking out things that match and look uniform over 3 or 4 years through various construction contracts is, how do we get to the point that we can have the same appearance without sole sourcing? So we came up with a solution to go to a pricing agreement and a procurement agreement so that we will competitively bid the items for the duration of the project, and then we can state what that vendor or what that product is in the competitively bid construction contract. So we kind of found a blend of how private development would set their standards and set what they want to use and everything, and we're real excited about that. We're going to bid 43 items that way, and we did our first 20 are being advertised right now, and we'll be opening bids next week on the 20th.
This is mostly for the fixtures, the furniture. It does include concrete color, the concrete pavers, so that we have a uniform bench or light fixture or
Right.
concrete color through the whole project, and we're not buying them over a 4-year period from a lot of different sources. So that's how we solve that problem. We're doing a competitive procurement process, and then we will identify the vendors who were the successful low bidder, and the contractors, the general contractor, will acquire the products from those vendors.
You mentioned concrete color, but we're not going to do the same type of thing we've done in some of those previous streetscapes where we have to continue to repaint the concrete. Is that right?
No, sir.
This is integral color mixed into the concrete, not painted on it.
And we have very, very stringent specifications on finishing that, so it seals the concrete, and the concrete color is all the way through, and we're trying to minimize any chemical reactions, so we've specified the recipe has to be the same no matter what. So we're learning from some of those mistakes, and we're applying the benefits of those now. Yeah. Let's see what else. We've got number 3 on this. Robinson Avenue in front of the Colcord Hotel is getting ready to be, our pre-bid is Thursday, and we will open bids on the 27th, and some of those items that we're getting pricing agreements will be included in that contract. Some of them we will have to supply just because of the timing.
Will that be the first street project?
Yes, sir.
Street project?
Yes, sir. The notice to proceed will happen on May 6th, and we'll have a street breaking party on May 13th. So it's kind of a low-key party, but it's a street breaking ceremony. So that'll be real exciting. That'll be a first street that we actually close and get to work on. And then that construction will consist of installing a 20-foot sanitary sewer that goes east-west in front of the IRS building. Then we're going to close the west side of the street, work on that, and make sure it is finished by July 1st, and then the contractor will move to the the east side and work on that section. So we'll maintain one direction of travel no matter what we're doing at all times, but the contractor can work 2 shifts from now until July 1st, and then after that, he can only work through the day because we have quite a few bookings after that. And that's kind of a summary of where we are for the next few months on this.
Well, just a quick question on as I'm thinking of Robinson, then in front of the Colcord being the model where people can say that's what's coming to our street, wherever they may be in the 180 acres or whatever. Mm-hmm. So what's the completion date that you anticipate when we can kind of say there's our showroom, if you will?
Our first project is supposed to be completed by August 1st.
Wow.
Okay? It's one block.
Yeah, no.
Also a very complicated block.
Yeah.
We are having our pre-bid on Thursday, and I'm going to get some feedback from the contractors on that meeting to see what they think about that schedule. Okay? We think it's appropriate, but we need to listen to them and see if they think they can get that done in that time period. And one of our prerequisites before we started construction is we wanted to see people busy 5 days a week, 8 to 5. So, we want to have them busy for the whole duration, and we think 2 months should be adequate for doing that.
Thank you.
We'll find out. So, are there any other questions? Thank you.
Laura, thank you very much.
Okay, next I'd like to ask Mike Ogan to make a few comments about some of our economic development work and prospects that we've been working on lately.
Afternoon, Michael Ogan with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber. A couple of pieces of information primarily on what we're seeing on a recruitment basis. We've seen a significant increase in the last month or so, probably consistent with what you're seeing in the national news in terms of the economy apparently turning around. We're seeing that reflected in the number of inquiries and prospects that are calling on us that are considering Oklahoma City as a potential location. So we're getting busy. As sort of an illustration of that, we actually have 3 companies in town this week doing site visits, looking at buildings, talking to existing employers about the labor force, meeting with us in the state, talking about tax structure, business costs, assistance with their hiring, those sort of things, as part of their due diligence. So usually when we get companies to town, we're in the tail end of their decision-making timeframe. So those should make location decisions within the next 6-8 weeks. We're also dealing with a couple of other major projects that one of which we know has been in town and one of which we hope will be in town, that if those move forward in the same manner that they're currently headed, which is very positive, we may have some significant announcements in the next 2-3 months, both significant capital investments and major job creation. In terms of activity, we currently have 48 open recruitments actively working. Of those, about a third are manufacturing, not including alternative energy projects. Another 18% of what we're dealing with are those alternative energy projects. So about half of what we're seeing is manufacturing. Still, that's very strong. It's a variety of things from consumer products to aviation and aerospace components. We're still dealing with suppliers to Tinker or suppliers to suppliers of Tinker, as well as some private aviation. Office projects account for another third. That's generally call centers or shared services operations. And we're seeing a range of those from very simple customer service operations to operations that are very complex, IT, HR, design firm kind of work. And then the remaining approximately 15% are split about evenly between distribution centers, and we have 4 headquarters operations that are generally small business services companies but are looking at our market to move their whole operations to. And we'll probably be lucky if we get 2 or 3 of those as opposed to all 4. But things are looking very positive. We're still viewed in a very positive light nationally because the economy's held up well here, and costs are very competitive relative to the coast. Questions?
Questions? Okay. Mike, you've bedazzled with your footwork again. Thank you very much.
Right.
I want to call your attention to the general manager's report, which is in everybody's packet. If there are any questions on that, we can certainly go into them. I think it's a good report. It's simple. Larry?
Questions, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Looking at the gold bond report on page 2, we show revenue of $7,061,708.32, and we show some total expenditures. But do we not have some interest that we owe on those bonds that we have to pay?
The interest is reflected in the city's debt service fund, and it isn't reported as a part of this. The interest and principal on the bonds is paid for from property tax levies. So we haven't reflected any of that in this budget. It's a part of the city's annual budget for the debt service fund.
Is it reasonable to say that the amount of interest that we've had to pay through this other source of showing it is greater than the amount of interest income that we show on this particular page right here? We show income of $107,945.
Yes, I would imagine it is.
Okay.
Because we have very limited things that we can invest the city's money in. They're all very, very safe investments, and they're not making very high returns right now.
And you probably know where I'm going.
Yes, I know where you're going.
Okay, but I'm going to go there anyway, but okay.
Leave the rest of it.
No, because we just, correct me if I'm wrong now, we just authorized $28 million in additional gold bonds to be sold, which we have sold at a very attractive market interest rate.
That's true, $29 million.
$29 million, excuse me. But we have, available from the gold bonds that we sold 2 years ago, I believe it was, or roughly about that time, almost just over $6 million of funds available.
Right.
And I guess I just want to go on record of warning you that I'm going to be a thorn in everybody's side, because I preferred some of that $29 million to have been sold as general obligation bonds to fund street repaving and things like that in that bond, the 2007 bond program, as opposed to sticking it into gold bonds, which we may need tomorrow, especially if all these things come through. But right now, we don't have any immediate need for it. And that's why I was just bringing that up.
And the only thing I will say is that if some of these things do happen, we will need it
I
very soon.
understand, and we have a very different opinion on that.
yeah,
I expect that.
The other thing is that these are taxable bonds and don't have the expenditure limitations on them that the city's tax-exempt debt does. So that we don't have to spend the proceeds in 3 years. The other thing that we are working on as staff is some possible ways that we could develop programs that use some of this money to carry out the mission of this trust and make a rate of return on them that is more than what we're paying in interest on the bonds. Revolving loan programs, conduit financing for companies where we would charge an interest rate that helps us recover the cost of the bonds. So we are sensitive to that. We're trying to develop some programs, and we hope to be able to present some of that to you over the next few months. It will be a different approach than what you've seen before. But, right now, one of the things that we're seeing in the economy, and I'm sure most of you are aware of this, is that companies have a very difficult time getting financing. Even very good companies have trouble getting enough financing for their projects. And if we can help bridge the gap, partner with a bank, I'm not saying that we would provide all of their financing, but we could provide a portion of it, get a higher rate of return on our money, then we address some of your concerns about paying extra interest on those bonds.
You address one side of the coin, but not the other.
I know, and I can't address
So
the other
I'll
side.
make my other statement, that I believe that money should be to create jobs and not to be a lending institution to help people with their working capital, et cetera.
Well, I'm saying that we would use it for projects that create jobs.
Are there any other comments from the trustees, from the staff, from the public? Hearing none, we are adjourned.